Hi, welcome to the Association of Certified Sanctions video message, the top 5 sanctions developments that everybody should know about. This is the July 2021 edition. My name is Saskia Rietbroek and I'm Executive Director at ACSS. In the next couple of minutes, I will cover 5 notable developments that happened last month. We have, amongst other, an FAQ, new sectoral EU sanctions, a new Chinese law, and a few notable designations. So let the countdown begin. On number 5, we start with an FAQ, an OFAC FAQ. I think it's a good one. Probably a sigh of relief for many sanctions compliance professionals. Early June, OFAC clarified that close name matches to the list of the entities on the non-SDN Chinese military industrial complex list is not a match. This was FAQ 899. And before this clarifications, there was a lot of confusion about this list. Well, frankly, there still is. This list was issued under the Trump administration, and the Biden administration is still trying to fix many of the issues. Well, one of the things that caused confusion was that there are many Chinese companies with publicly traded securities that has had close but not exact matches to entity names on this list. And it was unclear whether a designation would then apply to them as well. So the answer is no. The FAQ recently issued says that the amended executive order, this is the one related to the Chinese military companies designations, only applies to entities whose name exactly match the names of the entity on the list. On number 4, on June 2nd, OFAC sanctioned 3 Bulgarian individuals for their extensive roles in corruption in Bulgaria, as well as their networks encompassing 64 entities. The designations include 3 prominent Bulgarians, businessmen, who have long been controversial in their own country for their alleged extensive roles in corruption. The designations were definitely notable because they were the largest ever global Magnitsky action taken on a single day in the history of the program, when these entities were targeted. One of the individuals, Mr. Boykov, is a Bulgarian businessman and oligarch. He is actually thought to be Bulgaria's richest man. According to Treasury, he has bribed government officials, including a political leader and the former chairman of the Bulgarian State Commission on Gambling. So why bribing this official from the Gambling Commission? According to Bulgarian prosecutors, they found that Boykov paid the then chair about $6,000 every day to revoke licenses of his competitors in the gambling business. Boykov is currently in Dubai, the UAE. He has fled there a couple of years ago. He was trying to avoid successfully so far Bulgarian extradition on a number of charges. And Bulgarian authorities have tried to extradite him to return from the UAE to face these charges, but so far no luck. As you may know, Bulgaria is a member of the European Union since 2007. And of course, countries in the EU are known to be stable countries, wealthy countries, democratic companies, but there are some issues here. Some countries actually don't have such a clean record. And Transparency International ranks Bulgaria number 69 out of 180 countries on its Corruption Perception Index. It has a corruption score of 44, 100 being very clean, and 0 being totally corrupt. So a score of 44 is definitely in the red. And recently, the Global Corruption Watchdog issued a report on corruption in the European Union. And actually, almost half of the Bulgarians thought that corruption increased in the last 12 months. So the recent designation of these Bulgarians under the Global Magnitsky Act by the US, I think sends a strong signal that the US stands with the Bulgarians who strive to root out corruption. On number 3, we have a new law in China. On June 10, China passed its anti-foreign sanctions law. This law's goal is to counter US and EU sanctions against China. It actually provides the legal basis for actions taken so far, countermeasures by Chinese ministries to fight the extraterritorial reach of the US sanctions. The law took effect on the date of its enactment. And as you probably noticed, the US has ramped up their sanctions against China tremendously since a few years. It has placed Chinese government officials and companies on various lists, the OFAC list, the recently enacted CMIC list, the Department of Commerce, BIS entity list, the military end user list, and etc., etc. On the day that this new Chinese law was passed, the head of the Legal Work Committee of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress in China answered reporters' questions on this new law. And here you see a quote about the reasons behind the new law. So this law is Chinese answer to the US and EU sanctions. So what does this new law do? Previously, as we covered before in previous sessions of this video, the Chinese government announced a series of counter-sanctions against various US, UK, EU and Canadian targets, including both governmental and private companies as well as individuals. So those sanctions included travel bans, asset freezes, and some restrictions on doing business with people in China. The issue was so far there was no legal basis for these actions. These were public announcements by Chinese ministries, MOFCOM and MFA. And this new law issued now in June solves that issue. So now there is a legal basis. So with the new law, they're really validating the previous efforts by these ministries. So I'm sure we'll hear more about this new law in the months to come. On number 2, on June 21, the EU Council imposed new sanctions against Belarus. It targeted dozens of Belarus individuals and entities. And the reason behind these sanctions was the escalation of serious human rights violations in Belarus. Belarus is not part of the EU, but it's a neighboring country of the EU. And many individuals were subject to this new round of restrictive measures and were designated by the European Union. We covered this in last month's videos. And here you see a short video from the EU with images from Belarus. So in total, the EU restrictive measures on Belarus now apply to 166 persons and 15 entities. The people who are designated and the companies who are designated are subject to an asset freeze, and EU citizens and EU companies are forbidden from making funds available to the designated entities. But more importantly, for the first time now, the EU is targeting specific industries in the Belarus with sectoral sanctions. And these industries include petroleum products, potash, fertilizers, and tobacco-related products. I think that the export of petroleum products will probably have the most tangible negative impact. Last year, the Belarus exported petroleum products to the EU was worth more than $1 billion US dollars. The UK is also a key market for these products, and it's likely that the UK will follow the EU sectoral sanctions. There were also some new financial sanctions. These new sanctions make access to EU capital markets restricted and prohibits providing insurance and reinsurance to the Belarus government and Belarus public bodies and agencies. But the impact of the financial sanctions is less, I think, because Belarus was already de facto cut off from the international financial markets after these riots and repressive measures following the 2020 presidential elections. On number one, on June 10, OFAC designated members of a smuggling network that helps fund Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Quad Force, the IRGC-QF, and the Houthis in Yemen. This network is led by a person called Saeed al-Jamal, and he generates tens of millions of dollars in revenues from the sale of commodities like Iranian petroleum, which is sanctioned. The proceeds are directed through a complex network of intermediaries and exchange houses in several countries and end up with the Houthis in Yemen. These designations were under an old 20-year-old Counterterrorism Authority, Executive Order 13224, and really why these designations were being made. If you look at what's happening in Yemen, the Houthis have relied on support from the Iran's IRGC-QF to fight against the government in Yemen. They conduct lethal attacks using ballistic missiles, naval mines, not only to strike military targets, but also population centers. And one person which is key to the network is Saeed al-Jamal. So he's listed at the top of the chart that ACSS prepared. He's really the financial conduit to the Houthis. He's an Iran-based Houthi financial supporter. And according to Treasury, he directs this network of front companies and vessels that smuggle Iranian fuel and other commodities throughout the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. So, I was thinking, how does he move the money to the Houthis? It turns out that, according to Treasury, a significant portion of the revenue generated from these sales is directed through a complex international network of intermediaries and exchange houses and ends up this way to the Houthis in Yemen. So this money helps the Houthis finance their attacks in Yemen. And according to Treasury, Saeed al-Jamal's network generated tens of millions of dollars in revenue through the sale of Iranian petroleum and other commodities to those willing to evade sanctions. Of course, Saeed al-Jamal doesn't work alone. You need money launderers, accountants, maritime shipping experts, people who buy the vessels, and others to make your network work smoothly. So on the chart here, ACSS prepared, based on the information from Treasury, we listed the cohort of businessmen and people that were designated. And you see them here with a variety of nationalities: Yemen, Somali, UK, and based in different locations, Dubai, Greece, even Sweden, I guess in the summer, to support this network. So in addition to these individuals, OFAC also designated a vessel and a few companies. So I look forward to reading more information on this case, including the role of the exchange houses. As we've seen in previous cases, the exchange houses sometimes play a key role in moving money for sanctioned individuals or money that was generated by selling prohibited commodities. Think, for instance, about the Reza Zarrab case, a Iranian-Turkish national, a gold trader who helped Iran evade sanctions with the help of Turkish banks and also several exchange houses. So we'll probably see more about this case, hopefully with more details in the months to come. So thank you very much for listening again to this monthly news video issued by ACSS. Please visit our website, sanctionsassociation.org, for more information and our training. Thank you.